UN investigation concludes that Israel carried out genocidal acts in Gaza. Putin supports a U.S. ceasefire proposal to end war with Ukraine. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Mohana Priya and you're watching World Today. Hamas has renewed a demand for Israeli troops to withdraw from South Gaza, accusing Israel of seeking to breach the terms of a ceasefire in talks on the next phase of the accord. Hamas spokesman Kassim said Israeli forces should have pulled out of a strip of land along the Gaza-Egypt border under the first phase of the ceasefire that started on 19th January. Kassim indicated that the corridor has become one of the sticking points at Qatari-US mediated talks in Doha on the next phase of the ceasefire. He said reports indicate new proposals are being presented aimed at circumventing the Gaza agreement. He added meetings are continuing with mediators in Doha and Hamas adheres to what was agreed upon. But he insisted that Israel must also fulfill its obligations of withdrawing from the entire Gaza Strip and begin the withdrawal from the Philadelphia corridor for any second phase deal to end the war. Kassim also said Israel has not implemented the humanitarian protocol of the Gaza agreement, as Israel has stopped humanitarian aid from entering the Gaza since 2nd March. The first phase of the ceasefire ended on 1st March without an accord on the following stages. The second phase was meant to lead to an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza as part of the process of ending the war. A United Nations investigation has concluded that Israel carried out genocidal acts in Gaza through the destruction of its main IVF clinic, maternity facilities and other reproductive health care facilities. The UN Commission of Inquiry said maternity hospitals and wards have been systematically destroyed in Gaza, along with the Al-Basma IVF Center, the territory's main in vitro fertility clinic. The Commission said it found the Israeli authorities had intentionally destroyed, in part, the reproductive capacity of Palestinians in Gaza as a group through the systematic destruction of sexual and reproductive health care. It noted that this amounted to 2 categories of genocidal acts during Israel's offensive in Gaza. Of its 5 categories, the Commission said the 2 implicating Israel were deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction and imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Hamas spokesman Kassim said the report by the Commission of Inquiry underscored the urgent need to expedite the prosecution of Israel's leaders for the crimes and ensure their swift trial at the International Criminal Court. Syrian leader Ahmad al-Sharaa hailed the start of a new history for his country, signing into force a constitutional declaration regulating its 5-year transitional period and laying out rights for women and freedom of expression. The declaration sets out a transitional period of 5 years during which a Transitional Justice Commission would be formed to determine the means for accountability, establish the facts and provide justice to victims and survivors of the former government's misdeeds. Abdul Hamid Al-Awak, a member of the committee that drafted the document, said it also enshrined women's rights to participate in work and education and have all their social, political and economic rights guaranteed. The declaration maintains the requirements that the President of the Republic must be a Muslim, with Islamic jurisprudence set out as the main source of legislation. He added the declaration also guarantees the freedom of opinion and affirms the independence of the judiciary.
كما نص الإعلان الدستوري على مجموعة كبيرة من الحقوق والحريات منها حرية الرأي والتعبير والإعلام والنشر والصحافة وصان حرمة الحياة الخاصة معلنا بذلك توازنا بين الحريات.
Awak said a committee would be formed to draft a new permanent constitution. President Vladimir Putin said Russia supported a U.S. proposal for a ceasefire in Ukraine in principle, but any truce would have to address the root causes of the conflict, and many crucial details needed to be sorted out. Putin's heavily qualified support for the U.S. ceasefire proposal looked designed to signal goodwill to Washington and open the door to further talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. But the sheer number of clarifications and conditions that Putin said were needed appeared to rule out a swift ceasefire.
Мы согласны с предложениями прекратить боевые действия. Но исходим из того, что это прекращение должно быть таким, которое привело бы к долгосрочному миру и устранило бы первоначальные причины этого кризиса.
Putin went on to list a slew of issues he said need clarifying and thanked Trump, who wants to be remembered as a peacemaker, for his efforts to end the war. He said Russian forces were moving forward along with the entire front line, and the ceasefire would have to ensure that Ukraine did not seek to use it simply to regroup. Trump, who said he was willing to talk to the Russian leader by phone, called Putin's statement very promising and expressed hope that Moscow would do the right thing. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned Putin's ambivalent response to the proposed ceasefire as very manipulative. He said Ukraine did not set conditions that complicate anything compared to Russia that listed a number of obstacles in the way of the truce. Zelensky accused Putin of actually preparing a refusal, but claimed he was afraid to say directly to President Trump that he wants to continue the war. He also said Putin was framing the idea of a ceasefire with such preconditions so that the truce will not happen or cannot happen for as long as possible. He added the American side said they were ready to organize control and verification of the ceasefire.
Щоб за час тиші підготувати відповіді на всі питання про довгострокову безпеку та реальний надійний мир і покласти на стіл план завершення війни.
Portugal's president has announced a snap legislative vote for 18th May, the third national election in just over 3 years. This is following Prime Minister Luis Montenegro's resignation over a conflict of interest dispute. President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa said he wanted to move quickly to avoid prolonged instability, adding that 18th May was the preferred date for the majority of parties. Rebelo de Sousa had met with party leaders on Wednesday and called a meeting of the State Council yesterday, which is primarily made up of political leaders, for consultations before dissolving parliament. He urged parties to focus their campaigns on problems that worry the Portuguese in their daily lives, such as the economy and healthcare.
Portugueses, perante esta terceira eleição para a Assembleia da República em 4 anos, que eu diria que muito provavelmente ninguém esperava e, sobretudo, que ninguém queria, começam agora a correr 2 meses de debate eleitoral. É inevitável que o tema da crise ocupe parte desse debate.
Montenegro stepped down on Tuesday after his minority centre-right government lost a confidence vote. The Social Democratic Party leader had been battling attacks over government contracts held by his family's companies. Coming up next, Canada files complaint to WTO over Trump's sweeping tariffs. Stay tuned. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to impose 200% tariffs on wine, champagne, and other alcoholic beverages from European Union countries. It was a retaliation against the bloc's planned levies on American-made whiskey. Trump has launched trade wars against competitors and partners alike since taking office, wielding tariffs as a tool to pressure countries on commerce and other policy issues. His latest salvo was a response to the European Union's unveiling of tariffs on $28 billion in U.S. goods to be imposed in stages starting April. The EU measures, including a 50% tariff on American whiskey, were a tit-for-tat measure against Trump's levies on steel and aluminium imports that took effect on Wednesday. Trump said if the tariff is not removed immediately, the U.S. will shortly place a 200% tariff on all alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries. Trump said he would not bend on his aggressive tariff policy, while European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc is ready to negotiate over escalating duties, though she insisted that tariffs are bad for business. Europe exported nearly $5.2 billion worth of wine and champagne to the United States in 2023. And on a related note, Canada has launched a complaint with the World Trade Organization, WTO, over Trump's across-the-board imposition of 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. The steep levies contained no exemptions despite countries' efforts to avert them. The global trade body said Canada has requested WTO dispute consultations with the United States regarding the imposition by the U.S. of import duties on certain steel and aluminium products from Canada. It said Canada claims that the measures which terminate Canada's exemption from additional duties on certain steel and aluminium products and increase duties on aluminium articles are inconsistent with U.S. obligations. Canada is the leading supplier of steel to the United States, followed by Brazil and then the European Union. Canada's request for consultations formally initiates a dispute in the Geneva-based WTO. Consultations give the parties an opportunity to discuss the matter and to find a satisfactory solution without proceeding further with litigation. After 60 days, if consultations have failed to resolve the dispute, the complainant may request adjudication by a panel. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has welcomed the new Lebanese government's request for support in addressing severe economic challenges. Now, head of the IMF's delegation to Lebanon, Ernesto Ramirez Rigo, said Lebanon's economy remains severely depressed and poverty and unemployment are exceptionally high since the 2019 crisis. Lebanon in January elected a new president after more than a 2-year vacuum and then formed a government led by Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. In February, the IMF said it was open to a new loan agreement with the country following discussions with its recently appointed finance minister. Ramirez Rigo pointed to positive steps, including the stabilization of the dollar exchange rate and reduced inflation. However, he said they were sufficient to address the ongoing economic, financial, and social challenges. He noted that the banking sector collapse continues to hamper economic activity and provision of credit, with depositors unable to access their funds. He moreover pointed to substantial infrastructure and housing needs resulting from the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, which ended with the November ceasefire. Ramirez Rigo said a comprehensive strategy for economic rehabilitation is critical to restore growth, reduce unemployment, and improve social conditions. A U.S. judge has ordered 6 federal agencies to rehire thousands of probationary workers who were fired as part of President Donald Trump's push to slash the size and scope of government. Since returning to the Oval Office in January, Trump has taken an axe to the U.S. government, cutting spending programs and firing tens of thousands of the more than 2 million employees on the federal payroll. Judge William Alsop said the justification of poor performance for mass layoffs last month was a sham in order to try to avoid statutory requirements. Ruling on a lawsuit brought by employee unions, Alsop ordered the Departments of the Treasury, Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Defense, Energy, and Interior to reinstate anyone on probation who was improperly fired. Alsop said the government was within its rights to reduce staffing, but it had to be done properly and with justification, citing reduction in force orders issued by several agencies as legal routes. The ruling prompted immediate condemnation from the White House, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt vowing the administration would fight back against the unconstitutional order. She said the president has the authority to exercise the power of the entire executive branch. Rodrigo Duterte's first appearance at the International Criminal Court, ICC, has been set for today as the former Philippine president faces crimes against humanity charges over his deadly war on drugs. The court said the chamber considers it appropriate for the first appearance of Duterte to take place today at 2 p.m. local time. The 79-year-old will appear before judges for a hearing where he will be informed of the crimes he is alleged to have committed, as well as his rights as a defendant. Duterte stands accused of the crime against humanity of murder over his years-long campaign against drug users and dealers that rights groups said killed tens of thousands of people. As he landed in The Hague, the former leader appeared to accept responsibility for his actions, saying in a Facebook video that he was responsible. According to ICC rules, at the initial hearing, a suspect can request interim release pending a trial. Following that first hearing, the next phase is a session to confirm the charges, at which point a suspect can challenge the prosecutor's evidence. Only after that hearing will the court decide whether to press ahead with the trial, a process that could take several months or even years. The European Union and South Africa have vowed to deepen cooperation at a summit as both grapple with aid and trade threats from the new U.S. administration. Now, European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen also plans to mobilize a €4.7 billion investment package in South Africa.
We are together announcing an investment package to mobilize €4.7 billion in South Africa. And this is in both our interest. It includes funding for the clean energy transition, but also funding to boost vaccine manufacturing. South Africa wants to protect the health of its people, as well as your autonomy and your local industries.
Meanwhile, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa said the EU-South Africa summit came at a time of global uncertainty, characterized by rising unilateralism and economic nationalism. He said the turmoil on the global stage would only serve to strengthen South Africa's relationship with the EU. He noted that everything that is happening in the world is going to strengthen their resolve to remain partners in order to tackle the many challenges that are arising. Both South Africa and the EU are grappling with the dramatic policy shifts from Washington since Trump returned to the White House this year, including on commitments to combat global warming, trade, and tariffs. Over in Ecuador, an explosion near a prison in the Ecuadorian city of Guayaquil killed at least one guard and wounded 2 others. The blast occurred in the early hours near the Littoral Maximum Security Penitentiary, which houses mobsters and corrupt politicians. A state security agency said the guard was hit by shrapnel and died. 6 cars were also damaged or destroyed in the incident. The motive for the attack was not immediately clear. Once tranquil, Ecuador has become a major transit point for South American cocaine to reach markets in Europe, North America, and Asia. An influx of foreign cartels and the strengthening of local gangs has caused rates of murder, extortion, and kidnapping to increase sharply. Coming up in sports, Fernandes hits hat-trick as United marches on to quarterfinals of Europa League.
Siaran langsung Kejohanan Badminton All England 2025. pukulan-pukulan kencang kini menggegar gelanggang dalam memburu tahta kejuaraan terunggul di arena badminton dunia. Sabtu 15 Mac 2025, perlawanan suku akhir 2:01 pagi dan perlawanan separuh akhir 5:30 petang di saluran sukan RTM, juga penstreaman langsung di RTM Click.
Starting off our sports segment this afternoon with the development of All England tournament in Birmingham. Two national pairs continue their consistent performance into the quarterfinals. Professional mixed doubles pair Goh Soon Huat Siobhan Lai became the first Malaysian representatives that booked their place in the last 8 round. As the top seeded in the tournament, the husband and wife duo lived up to the expectations when they made an easy work to brush off Scotland's pairs Alexander Dunn and Julie McPherson. Soon Huat Siobhan only needed 25 minutes to cruise to victory with a 21-9, 21-10, and they will next take on world number 1 pair from China, Jiang Zhenbang, Huang Dongping tonight. National number 1 women's doubles pair Pearly Tan and Tina overcame an injury to Pearly before prevailing 21-16, 21-14 against Indonesia's Apriyani Rahayu Siti Fadia Silva Ramadanti in the second round of the All England 2025 in Birmingham. The 5th-seeded Malaysians needed 43 minutes to tame the Indonesians and check into the quarterfinals of the world's oldest badminton tournament at the Utilita Arena, Birmingham. Pearly Tina started well to take the opening game and looked unstoppable in the second, as well as when they led 15-7. However, disaster nearly struck when Pearly seemed to have twisted her left ankle when trying to execute a delicate drop shot. The match was halted for almost 5 minutes, and the 24-year-old Pearly soldiered on, displaying immense courage to seal victory. Pearly Tina will next take on third seeds Nami Matsuyama, Chiharu Shida, after the Japanese pair defeated the Stoeva sisters of Gabriela and Stefani from Bulgaria. Meanwhile, Malaysia's interest in the men's doubles category at the All England 2025 came to an end after their last hope, Gozi Fei Nur Izzuddin Rumsani, bowed out in the second round in Birmingham on Thursday. The professional duo and second seeds fell to unseeded South Korean pair Kim Won-ho Seo Seong-jae 16-21, 13-21. The world number 2 now find themselves in the same unfortunate company of 5 other Malaysian pairs, including former world champions Aaron Chia So Woo Yik and Man Wei Chong T Kai Woon, who was sent packing in the first round. And in football, Bruno Fernandes netted a hat-trick as Manchester United beat Real Sociedad 4-1 in the European League last 16th leg on Thursday. 2 spot kicks and a late arrowed finish from Fernandes sent Manchester United into the quarterfinals by a 5-2 aggregate margin against 10-man Sociedad. After a 1-1 draw in Spain, United were a goal down after 10 minutes when Matthias de Ligt fouled Mikel Oyarzabal, and Oyarzabal converted from the spot, but the hosts levelled 6 minutes later with a penalty of their own scored by Fernandes after Igor Zubeldia had fouled Rasmus Højlund. Another spot kick gave United the lead 5 minutes after the interval, with Aritz Elustondo adjudged to have fouled Patrick Dorgu, and Fernandes again made no mistake. After Sociedad were reduced to 10 men when John Aramburu fouled Joshua Zirkzee, Fernandes completed his hat-trick and Diogo Dalot wrapped up a 5-2 aggregate victory in added time. Ruben Amorim's men will face Olympique Lyon in the last 8 after the French side strolled to a 4-0 win over Steaua Bucharest. And in the Saudi Pro League, table toppers Al Ittihad extended their Saudi Pro League lead to 7 points following a dramatic 2-1 home win over Al Riyadh in Jeddah on Thursday. Now, this victory extended their lead in the Saudi Pro League to 7 points. Despite Ibrahim Bayr's impressive equaliser, Al Ittihad managed to hold on after losing Steven Bergwijn and Hassan Aouar to injuries. Al Ittihad faced challenges early on when Bergwijn left the field with an ankle injury in the 38th minute. The situation worsened as Awar also exited due to a hamstring issue just before halftime. These setbacks came while N'Golo Kante and Fabinho were already absent because of suspensions. After a goalless opening half, Musa Diaby gave the hosts the lead in the 55th minute, only for Ibrahim Bayesh to equalise with 9 minutes left in the regulation time with a curling strike from outside the box. With a draw seeming certain, Al Ittihad were awarded a penalty deep into stoppage time for handball, which Saleh Al-Shari scored to seal victory. Al Ittihad climbed up to 61 points after 25 matches and sit 7 clear of defending champions Al Hilal, who have a game in hand. Bayern Munich on Thursday announced Joshua Kimmich had signed a 4-year extension to his contract that had been set to expire at the end of the season. Germany international Kimmich said he made his decision because Bayern is the best environment to achieve his sporting goals. After Tuesday's 2-0 win at Bayer Leverkusen sent Bayern through to the Champions League quarter-finals, Kimmich told reporters he was set to prolong his stay at the club. After speculation he could leave Bayern in previous seasons, Kimmich was rediscovered his best form in midfield under Vincent Kompany, having played every minute in the Bundesliga until picking up a minor injury in February. Kimmich, already the national team captain, is viewed as the successor to current Bayern skipper Manuel Neuer. Sporting director Christoph Ruyd called the 30-year-old Kimmich a driving force that will tirelessly drive Bayern forward in the future. Kimmich's new contract is the latest in several extended deals in 2025 as Bayern seek to shore up their future with Neuer, Jamal Musiala and Alphonso Davies all recently extending their contracts. And on to tennis, a 2-time finalist Daniil Medvedev rallied from a breakdown in the final set to beat Arthur Fils 6-4, 2-6, 7-6 on Thursday to reach the semi-finals of the Indian Wells ATP Masters. Now, Fils had shown admirable maturity in the face of Medvedev's formidable defensive skills. Phil cut down on the unforced errors that marred his first set to win the second with ease and maintained his poise as he erased an early break in the third to seize the lead. But Medvedev wouldn't be denied and after forcing the tiebreaker prevailed on his third match point when Phil pushed a backhand volley long. Medvedev, who had just won one of his past 9 third set breakers, gave a jubilant leap of triumph after securing the win in 2 hours 25 minutes to keep alive his bid for a first title since 2023 when he won 5. Medvedev next faces Denmark's Holger Rune. Rune reached his first semi-final of 2025 with a 5-7, 6-love, 6-3 victory over Talon Griekspoor, the 43rd ranked Dutchman who ousted top-seeded Alexander Zverev in the second round. Rune, 21, charged after dropping the first set, winning 10 of 11 games to seize the second set and take a 4-1 lead in the third. He didn't face a break point in the second and third sets as he continued a resurgent run in the California desert after failing to put together back-to-back wins in February. And that's it from us this afternoon in our top story today. UN investigation concludes that Israel carried out genocidal acts in Gaza. Do join us again this evening on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM at 8:30 p.m. or you can stream us online on RTM Click's website and mobile app. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Mohan Priya. Thank you for watching.